What's up everyone, and welcome back to AudioFire. My name is Peyton James and I'm the founder of AudioFire.co, where I help podcast creators level up their audio production. In this video, I'm going to go over my top 6 recommendations for audio software that you can use to record and produce your podcast episodes. Let's get into it. Alright, so you have your podcast gear all set up and ready to go, and you're ready to start recording and editing your podcast, but you may be wondering, what software do I use to do this? Just like with gear and computers and cameras and all that stuff. It's the same with audio software, where there's tons of different options, so it can be a little bit overwhelming understanding what is going to be the best fit for you and how much you need to budget for and things like that. So I'm just going to eliminate some of that confusion for you by telling you that it's really just personal preference. There's not really one option that's going to fit everybody. It's really up to you, your budget, and your needs. So let me start off by explaining that audio software is typically referred to as a DAW, or a digital audio workstation. So a DAW is the software that makes all of your gear hook up and work together, and you can import audio, record audio, mix audio, edit audio, and even export your podcast. So back in the day, DAWs were consisted of a bunch of clunky, huge pieces of equipment that all work together, with the DAW being the interface, right? But now it is all compact, which is the beauty about the day we're living in. It's all compacted into a piece of software that allows you to just simply hook up, your microphone and an interface if you have one, and your headphones and speakers and all of that, and you can record directly onto your computer. And so that is the beauty of what we have available to us now. And so I'm going to go over my top 6 recommendations for you. 3 of them are paid and 3 of them are free. So let's get into number 1, which is Audacity. So Audacity is a free open source DAW that works on both Mac and PC, and even Linux if you have a Linux system. So it's great that it works for everybody and it's completely free to use. Now, even though it's free, it actually has quite a few features that are really useful for recording, editing, and mixing your podcast. You can even do things like, compression and EQ. You can balance your volume levels. You can do panning left or right. You can work with multiple tracks, and you can even do things like noise reduction or a little bit more advanced editing and mixing features. But there are some limitations because it is a free piece of software. So there are things that you'll need to keep in mind if you want to use Audacity. So the major downside that I see with Audacity is that you can't do real-time effects processing, meaning that you can't make adjustments to an effect in real time while you're listening to the audio. Basically, what you have the ability to do is work with these different effects, and then you render the effect, and then you choose whether you want to keep that or undo it and make adjustments, but you can't adjust it in real time, and that is a major downside for me personally. I like the ability to be able to tweak things on the fly and, go back later and make adjustments if I need to do that. With Audacity, you can't. You just have to render it, and then, you can't undo it later on. You have to, undo everything you've done if you want to make changes. Another downside with Audacity is you don't have the ability to work directly with video in the piece of software. So certain DAWs allow you to see the video and sync things up and work with the video, so you can reference that. If you're working with video for your podcast, then Audacity might not be the best for you. However, you can use it to record your audio if you want to. But as far as syncing and doing edits and mixing, it's really not the best for working with video. So although it does lack some of the more advanced features that I personally like in a DAW, it is a really great piece of software to get started. And like I said, it's not only free, but it works on Mac and PC devices. So, it appeals to everybody, and I will likely go over that with you on the channel because it's something that's accessible to practically everybody. And another great thing about it is if you happen to work with an older computer, you're likely to find a version that will work with your computer as well. Right? Number 2 is Garageband, which is another free audio software that is just for Mac users only. So GarageBand actually has quite a few features, including the real-time effects processing that I was talking about earlier that I said Audacity was lacking, and it is a much more intuitive and easy to use and understand interface in my personal opinion. So not only can you do the real-time effects processing, but you can also make more precise changes and adjustments to your levels and your edits and things like that. That just makes it a lot easier to use and creates a better production overall. So the major downsides that I see with GarageBand is, number one, like I said, it's only for Mac users. So it comes pre-installed on Mac devices, which is really cool. But if you're working with a Windows machine, then you can't use GarageBand. Another thing is, like I said, with Audacity, you can't use video. You can't work with video within the piece of software. You have to use a video editor or one of the paid DAWs that I'll talk about here in a little bit. So in my personal opinion, all in all, GarageBand is a great way to get started if you're a Mac user. It has a simple and intuitive user interface and allows you to do all of the things that you need to do to produce a high quality podcast of your own. All right, the third piece of software is called Pro Tools First. Now, Pro Tools is the industry standard DAW that's used by professionals in the film, video game industry, and also music industry for recording, editing, and mixing audio. But actually in 2015, they released a light version called Pro Tools First, which is a much more limited version of Pro Tools, but it allows you to get used to the interface and actually gives you quite a few features that you can do, and it's free. So it's pretty awesome and it's worth checking out. It works on both Mac and PC devices. You can do multi-track recording, so you can record up to 4 tracks at one time. And then you can work with up to 16 tracks all within a session, which is limited to the compared to the paid version of it, or some of the other paid software I'll talk about later. But that is quite a few tracks and more than what you need to produce a podcast of your own. You also have access to many of their plugins or effects that you can use, and you have the ability to do real-time effects processing and volume adjustments and intricate fades and edits. It really is a really great piece of software, especially if you're just getting started. One experience that I've had with the standard version of Pro Tools is that I personally work on Mac devices quite a bit, and Mac is constantly throwing out new updates, and if you just are the first to update your computer as soon as there's a new update released for Mac OS, if you do that and you're using Pro Tools, they're not always caught up to the latest releases, and sometimes that causes bugs or errors to where you can't even use the software. So it is important to keep that in mind. With that being said, Pro Tools First gives you all of the basics that you need to produce a podcast of your own and gets you familiarized with the Pro Tools interface if you would like to upgrade to the standard or ultimate version down the road. All right, so I covered those free audio software programs, or DAWs. So now let's get into some of the paid DAWs, which give you access to a lot more advanced features. And typically that means that you can, record more tracks simultaneously. You can have more tracks in a session. You can even have the ability to work with video within these pieces of software that I'm going to mention. And you also have less limitations when it comes to working with the built-in effects or third-party effects that you happen to purchase and work within the program. And also you have the ability to work at a higher quality of audio files. So you can record at a higher quality or produce your podcast at a higher quality. All right, so number 4 is Avid Pro Tools, which I mentioned Pro Tools First earlier, which was the free light version of Pro Tools. But Pro Tools, as I said, is the industry standard in the entertainment industry, especially for music and film and video games, things of that nature. One of the reasons it's so popular is because you get a vast suite of effects that you can use, and also have the ability to just really make intricate, precise details. You have the ability to work very quickly and efficiently. And it's just been around for a long time now, and so people are really used to it and have learned how to not only work quickly within the program, but a lot of companies have created a way to integrate their software into Pro Tools as well. So you just have access to so many different effects and features that you don't get with other pieces of software. Now, one of the downsides is that it is a hefty price tag. You have to either invest in a subscription or buy it outright, and it is a little more expensive than some of the other software I will talk about. But just keep in mind, if that is something that you're really into, especially working with video, or if you want the ability to do like sound effects design and stuff like that, or music production, it is a really great piece of software. So some of the advantages you have with Pro Tools is that you can record a bunch of tracks simultaneously. You can have a ton of different tracks all within a session. You can work with a huge suite of effects that come pre-built into Pro Tools, and also, like I said, work with third-party pieces of software that integrate into Pro Tools. You can do really intricate editing and processing of your audio, and you can work with the highest quality of audio that your gear can possibly record at, which is pretty cool. You also have the ability to work with video, and then if you use Pro Tools Ultimate, you have the ability to do surround sound or even Dolby Atmos, which is just overkill if you're just doing a podcast. But if you are getting into things like filmmaking or doing music production, it is a really great and powerful piece of software. So the downsides I see with Pro Tools is that there's a hefty price tag that comes with it. Like I said before, the subscription model is fairly expensive. I want to say at this point it's like $30 a month or something like that for the standard version. If you do the subscription, you're always up to date on the latest version, which is cool. You don't have to, keep buying an updated version of the software, but you are paying for it. And when that subscription stops, if you stop paying for it, you no longer have access to it. So keep that in mind. If you're paying for the software outright, it's around $500. And again, just like I said with Pro Tools First, Pro Tools can be finicky when it comes to Mac OS updates. So just be aware of that and don't update it until you know for sure that it's supported by Pro Tools. So there really is just a ton of features that you get with Pro Tools that make it just a really great piece of software to use. But if you're just getting started or you don't have the budget for that right now, definitely check out these other pieces of software that I mentioned here. All right, number 5 is Apple's Logic Pro X, which comes with a great number of features for music production, audio production and recording, and producing your podcasts. Logic comes preloaded with a ton of different features and effects, and you have the ability to do real-time processing, which is really cool. And it essentially is like Garageband would be the light version of Logic. So if you have been used to working with Garageband and you're a Mac user, and then you update to Logic Pro X, you can actually use your GarageBand projects in Logic, which is really awesome. So some of the things that you get with Logic Pro X is just more advanced features. You can work with more effects. You have the ability to do more precise editing and higher quality mixing and working with higher quality files. And it comes pre-built with tons of effects. In my personal opinion, the best feature of Logic is its price point. So like I said, with Pro Tools, you have a subscription model, but with Logic Pro, you buy it outright. There's no subscription, and it's only $200. But that being said, like I mentioned, it is Mac only. With Logic, you do have the ability to work with video. So if you happen to use Final Cut Pro, it works very seamlessly with that because it's the same company that makes it, right? So it works fairly seamlessly with that. So if you're working with video, definitely check this out. So if you've worked with GarageBand before and you want to upgrade, definitely check out Logic. Or if you're just wanting to dive right into the more advanced features, definitely check it out, and you can actually try it out for free for 90 days. All right, so last but not least is number 6, which is Adobe Audition, which is a part of the Adobe Creative Suite. So if you're a part of Adobe's ecosystem, Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, After Effects, like all that stuff, then Audition is definitely a no-brainer because you're used to working within that ecosystem, right? So Adobe has tons of features for working with video, working with audio, and Audition is a great way to go, especially, like I said, if you're working with those Adobe programs, but also just as a standalone program. You have tons of different effects that you can work with. You can do really precise editing and like noise reduction features that even Pro Tools doesn't have unless you buy third-party software. You can record multiple tracks simultaneously, work with a bunch of different tracks, and work with high-quality audio files, just like you can in Pro Tools. You also have access to built-in royalty-free sound effects that come with Adobe Audition. And then, like I said, it seamlessly integrates with Adobe Premiere, but you can also view video and work with video within Audition itself. For me personally, the biggest downside with Audition is the subscription model. I'm not a huge fan of subscriptions. It just adds up to a lot over time, right? And that's what they have now, is just the subscription model. So you always stay up to date on the latest features, but if you don't have the ability to pay it outright and have it forever, even if it's an outdated version, you always have to be paying to have access to it. So that's one of the downsides for me. And then I just personally have been trained on and am certified in Pro Tools, so I prefer to use that. But Adobe Audition has tons of amazing features, and it's used by a lot of professionals. So you have the ability to do surround sound mixing as well if you work with video. It has practically everything that Pro Tools has, and they're about the same price point. But if you're using, like I said, other Adobe programs and you're within that ecosystem, just go with Audition. All right, so like I said, there's no perfect solution that fits everybody's needs. It's really great to just give it a try and see what is best for you and, research all the different features of these different programs. But these are my top 6 recommendations for getting started with your podcast production. The best part about all of these that I mentioned here is they either are free or they have free trial versions that you can test it out and see if it works with your system and if it's something that is going to work for what you need. And if you like the interface and find that it's intuitive and good for what you need, you can give it a shot. All right, so for your next steps, be sure to go to audiofire.co to learn more podcasting tips and find out how we can work together to level up your podcast. All right, that's it for this video. I'll catch you in the next one. Until next time, keep making waves.